So I was on the fence whether I should have tattoos out or not, and I thought,
Yeah, I love your
have to
tattoo.
have to be real.
Yeah, you build all red.
I'm a builder. I'm a builder after all. No,
And the branding. So we've got the branding going.
always, buddy, always.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And we've got loads to talk about. But firstly, thank you for inspiring me and us to take this journey down the podcast route. Anyone who doesn't know, you invited me to come on yours.
Yep.
Which was a real experience. I think the first time we met, or from my memory, was when you were a client of ours,
Mhm.
and you and your dad were developing properties.
Mhm.
And yeah, we've got lots to talk about. But I'd love to, from my perspective, working with my dad and with family, I'd love to hear how that was for you and what your experience was working with family.
I think one of the first projects we worked together was St James's Chambers. That was the first development that I did in central London,
Okay.
and the first of my dad.
And was he already developing at that
He
point?
he was just getting into property, so he had wood floor shops. We grew up in Asia because he had a business out there, so he was a few years ahead, but he was just getting into property as well.
Okay. I always had the concept that he'd been doing it for years.
Yeah,
But actually, you were probably ahead of him on the development front.
yes and no. I think maybe on the flipping side, but he was getting into the short lease game, which is what we partnered on. So he knew how to enfranchise the leases in the way that you add value. And then I essentially did all the development work. So that one I raised all the funding, made it happen, and then we did that first deal together. Actually, just after we bought it, 2008 hit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when you're sitting on a 3.5-year lease, and then the market falls out, it's not great. We couldn't buy the freehold because it was an apartment block, so we bought a 999-year lease. We actually took it to tribunal in the end, but we paid 300K. I think we paid 1.5 for the lease extension, and we spent like 500-600 on the refurb, and it went leave for 4 million.
Wow.
So it was an incredible first development.
Amazing. And what was it like? Had you worked with your dad before? Did you?
No, I hadn't. Working with my dad's been a pleasure, and everyone who asks me about that, I always actually give the credit back to him because he was good enough to just let me make my own mistakes and not micromanage. And I could see myself with my staff and the people we work with now that I'm not as good as him at doing that. And you read all the business books about how you've got to let people make their own mistakes and take charge of certain things, and it's so true. Because me and him would just talk on strategy, and then that would be it. Then we go and execute. And if we went over budget, I'd have the answer for it. But it was great. Of course, there were disagreements about stuff, and it's not always. But at the end of the day, that the other person's always got your back.
I always felt he was just a lovely, lovely man.
He is a lovely, lovely man.
Yeah.
He's also got a bit of a reputation as zero BS.
Oh, really?
Accepted. Which kind of helps when you sort of do the bad cop, good cop stuff in development.
So this is where you got your entrepreneurial spirit from.
Definitely.
And so you guys kept going on. You did quite a few of these.
Yeah. So that was our first one. That went out the door for just under 4 million. And then that was it. We went full time together after that. And we did £100 million worth of developments over the next 10 years.
Wow.
We worked together from 2008 to 2018.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you've got some good years in there.
Got some great years. I mean, and also I was very lucky that they served as a great mentorship from a business perspective from my dad. And we talk a lot about mentorship and all that stuff nowadays, and you have as well when you came on the show. But Matt, it's so key, learning from somebody, not as just about the principles of business.
What do you think the key things you've learned from him are?
Firstly, a grasp of the numbers. Numbers trumps everything. You got to look at the numbers have to make sense constantly. You got to stay on top of them. You got to measure KPIs to run them. And the second thing is about team building. It's the same as everything I do now. Now we've got a project down in Portugal. We had to start from scratch. It's like, how do you build a team? It's the same with any business. Any business has got to build a team, or any operation is to do it. But building the team is what will make the difference between success or not success. You have to be in the business. If you imagine yourself, you have to always be the composer, know a little bit about all the stuff that you're doing, but then get all the other professionals who are experts in those things to sing together and to deliver the project and let them do what they're great at doing. It's the same all the way through to, at the end, telling the agent how to sell the house or sell the property. not really getting involved in that either, because you can start micromanaging them and saying, this is how you've got to do it. And, they know best.
Yeah. Hire people better than you.
Hire people better than you. 100%.
In their niches.
Exactly. Have you found it hard to build a team with the same values? 'Cause it is quite, a financially focused.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other opportunities out there for.
Yeah, we before COVID, we were 14 people, and out of that 14, there were probably 6, 7, 8 family members. There were a lot of family members. I remember hiring people, paying for like, oh, this is going to be always weird.
So when you telling a position to fill, you just like get the family album out and
They get a cousin book up.
Oh.
Anyone better? So yeah, it's gone from that to, so we went from 14 to 30, 35, 40 quite quickly. And I think it's been a really, I found it a really fascinating, exciting part of the job that I've had. I found interviewing really interesting. I found that it's been really beneficial understanding what our values are, because I think having grown up with a family, you take for granted that you've all got the same values.
Sure.
You've never actually thought about what they are.
Yeah.
And so we did a big process on what our values are, and yeah, we just tried to hire people with similar values and let them fly. And yeah, it's a constant piece of work, but we're just very fortunate to work with great people. Well, I think we've tried to hire people with similar values to us, so we're just aligned.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Better Home.
I have a little story for you. We had a house on Bourne Street.
Yeah.
We went for it, even though it was a little bit compromised, because there was tube rumble from Sloane Square, which is across the road. And it was in the market, I think around 4-something million, and it didn't sell for about 6 months. Then we had the referendum. Well, suddenly that house is a £1.5 million cheaper for our international friends.
Interesting.
And there was a bidding war the next day or the next couple of days between Daphne from Frasier. You have to be old if you know who that is. And then a Malaysian princess. And it sold in the next couple of days. Amazing. Or the asking price, But that was the last kind of hurrah, because after that, then there was all the talk about what's going to happen with Brexit and everything. And we just decided that we were going to stop acquiring stuff.
You sold that. You didn't have anything else. And
you guys, we did. We had 2 other projects in the pipeline. We had Boscobel Place and we had Eaton Place. But we decided not to sell them, so they were going to be rented. So we finished those projects and rented them. And then I took the construction team that we had and started Better Home Company. And the idea was then to, maybe own more of the vertical stack or whatever, but mainly just to have another business that generates cash, because we were only getting paid every few years every time we sold a project. And it's been good. We started in 2018, so it's now nearly 8 years going. We've done, like, I took my own home, but we've done homes with 3 different royal families.
Wow.
We've done some pretty amazing sort of trophy projects. It's a bloody hard industry. The margins are not great. Like, the competition is massive. It's great because it's cash generating and whatever. We run what's called an in-house model, which is difficult when you're larger because we don't subcontract. So we have everything in-house, which means we've got a massive team, but that means we have to use all those people. It's great because we control everything in our ecosystem. We know the standards of our painters. We know the standards of our plumbers. And if there's issues in the future, we've got our own maintenance team, blah, blah. But you have to then stack projects that match. So that's a whole nother headache. Whereas if you are a managing contractor, you would just win a project. You guys do that, and we'll just manage it from the office. Maybe there's 3 or 4 guys in the office.
And why did you decide to do that? Why did you decide to have everyone in-house?
Because we do a wide variety of projects, and we also do a lot of small works. So we do, like, what I thought when I was developing, what we really struggled with, we didn't actually find it very hard to find contractors who could do a £1 million contract or £2 million contract. You got a good pick there. But if you got someone you want to do 300 grand, new kitchen, new bathrooms, that kind of thing, it's actually very hard.
It's really tough.
Very, very hard to find someone. And that 300 grand project needs to be run like a £1 million project. You need a site manager, you need a project manager, you need full health and safety, you need a QS running it and costing everything. So we decided to work in that kind of 100 to 500k sector. We do a lot of business, and we quite quickly became Knight Frank's referral partner.
Okay.
So they referred all their clients to us, but if they bought something, then we did the works for them.
Right.
And we still do a lot like that, and that's very helpful for an in-house team, because we can just send a team there and send a team there.
You always got someone available.
We can start in a week. we have that flexibility. So that we do a lot more of that. And then we do some larger contracts.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to find good people at that level.
It is so difficult. It's a very difficult game. You're completely labor dependent on who you're going to do to use the work. These guys are tradesmen and women. They have their own lives and their own agendas and their own deadlines and their own problems.
Yeah.
And you need the best of the best. You need to assemble them. You need to get them to follow a tight program and deliver exactly on that. Meanwhile, you need the scope not to change, because you need to not then...
And that knocks everything out.
Everything gets redone. With an in-house team, if the scope changes, it's easy for us to, because we control everything. If you've already subcontracted it all out, it's difficult.
So you'll be managing the whole process.
So in a way, I take like the client role.
Right.
I appoint an architect, I appoint a QS, and I appoint designers, and then I appoint the builders, which would be...
So those three are ones you don't have in-house. So you don't have architect, QS, or designer?
Nope.
And you do everything else and manage the whole thing.
Correct. And that way, I'm the sort of... You only need to communicate with me what you want. If you want this or that, you tell me, and it's my responsibility then to coordinate everybody. So rather than, because who do you go to when you want to change something? It can just be a bit... You can, of course, get a whole professional project management team. Then you're talking about you've got 5 consultants working on your project for you, which, of course, they all do good work.
Coming from a development background, having had, I'm sure loads of mistakes and difficulties and successes, you've been able to design a business to suit the needs that you felt actually being the client.
Yes, exactly. And the one, for example, the one in Portugal, client came to us via Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, and it's because I'd be on Instagram talking about the various developments that we'd done. And then he saw it, God knows how, they're in Boston, and reached out to us and just said, look, I've just bought a house in Mayfair. It's pretty tired. Could you do it up for us? Great. And I said, straight away, yeah, of course. And then, they flew over a month later. We saw the house. We gave them a proposal. It hadn't been designed yet, right? So we appointed a designer for them. So we gave them a cost of what we thought it would be, and then whilst they started working with the designer, we started working with redoing the layouts, working on the M&E, doing all the sort of stuff that doesn't need their involvement. And then so we ran the project from the start to finish in 9 months. And that includes like a standing start, because you're getting a developer to run the whole thing for you rather than following like a sort of process.
That must hugely help people's trust in you, that they've seen you put your money on the line. You've done this yourself.
Yeah, I think that's...
Because I suppose a lot of contractors they've done it themselves as well in many ways, but to actually show that you've been the principal, you've understood it, you've had the possibility of losing money or going over time or going over budget.
Yeah, I think it comes down to trust, and if they know that you've been there, you will have come across the same challenges, and you will have found a way through. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be here.
Yeah,
they trust you for that. And I mean, like it's crazy if you were to say to somebody, oh, you just bought this £10 million house, why don't you pick this guy and get him to do the whole thing for you, And I'm sure there's horror stories everywhere of them just running off with all the money or building them or whatever. So I get it, and that's why you have this fantastic, age-old system of all the consultants running for, they got a correct procedure, which is entwined in law, so it protects everybody. But from a developer aspect and from what we do the best work, that is the best way to get out of it, and if you're someone who's got the time, you don't need a lot of time, but if you have the time to do it that way, that's exactly how I would do it.
Let's say you bought this lovely house in Soho and you wanted to do a big project and you didn't know anyone in the industry, what would be your advice to them?
If I bought it from you, then my first thing would be ask you for recommendations, because always recommendations are the way to go. You'd probably be able to give me a list of a few people you think could do it, or at least maybe some other people you think could do it, and I would network until I found a selection, and I'd probably meet with 10 different contractors or 10 different teams, and I'd talk to them all and just get a measure of them, see what they say, see what their attitude is like, see what they think on cost, just chat to them.
When we get asked for referrals, I actually find it quite hard to know, is it an architect? Is it a builder? Is it an interior designer? Is it a project manager? Like what is the right person to...
They all want you to start with them.
Yes.
Just like I'm saying now that I want them to start with me, because they all want to be the principal in line with the thing. And it's a very good question, because, some people might say you go to a QS first because you want to know what numbers you're looking at. And the QS is the best person to give you like a cost plan. If you bought this beautiful house and you think I'm going to completely do it, the QS is the best person to give it for you. The architect, they'll put their finger in the air and probably call a QS and say, what do you think this is going to be? Or you could go to a project manager.
But maybe the cost of it isn't as important as the finish or the speed or the.
Absolutely. Maybe you don't want, maybe you want to create like an architectural marvel, or maybe you actually just want to get it done so your family can move in.
Yeah.
You've got completely different requirements there. And then that means a different kind of architect that you're going to want, different kind of team you're going to want.
So I'm always a bit confused, to be honest. I've done 7 projects myself, and they've all been in the lower end of the build cost, like you're talking about, and it's tough. It's tough to find. It's tough to you haven't really got enough money to do the project management stuff. So you're always trying to cut corners everywhere, and I think I don't know. I think some people it does depend. I mean, some people want it done super fast. Some people have got this interior design that they just absolutely want it just like this. Others, you're listed and you think you might need some specialist in the area to help you with getting this, extension you've got. But I think it's really interesting. I think your story is great and really interesting that you've come at it from, being a developer for 10 years. 10 years? Yep, ish. And then creating the solution to your problem, and so I think that's a great way of starting a business.
Yeah.
So when I spoke to you in the lead up to this last week, when you told me what, the whole setup of having everyone in house, it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I think that probably the consumer, the client, is completely unaware of how complex it really is. And if they've never done it before, and I mean, it's just I think maybe with selling your property, there are a few ways of doing it, and they're quite well known and they're quite well trodden.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with renovating your house, there are actually, when you get into it, there are quite a few ways of skinning the cat, and it really depends on who you are and your budget and what you want out of it, and so it's a bit of a. And then if you've got less time on your plate, on your hands, which a lot of our clients probably will have little limited time.
Yeah. I would still always recommend whoever you're going to give the actual job to build in the house, not the project manager or not the QS or whatever, the actual person who controls the purse strings for who's going to build the house, because that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah.
How, the person that controls the purse strings for the contractor is the one who's going to allocate time and effort and resource to your project, which is what you need to have a successful project. Okay. You need to be in touch with that person, and you need to have a relationship with that person, and that person needs to be committed to your project, and you have to trust that person, and you have to work together, because that way you will get your best chance of success. You have your fingers on the pulse. Whereas when you are removed, I'm sure the project will still get done, but I can guarantee you it will cost you more money.
Well, I think that's great advice. And I think for a lot of people, they probably, me having done this a few times, I couldn't tell you immediately who those people were in each of those projects. Even though I should know what I'm doing. What would be your dream next project that you haven't done already?
I've just finished one in Copenhagen for myself. Great. Bought a home there as well. So I've really enjoyed doing that. A dream project is one right now that's in the pipeline, which isn't confirmed yet.
Okay.
But it is in a place called South Dartmouth in Massachusetts.
Wow.
It is like, in fact, the Martha's Vineyard and all that, sort of between New York and Boston, that whole coastline.
Right.
So it's this, I think it's 4 acres of coastline where we're going to build a 5,000 square foot or 6,000 square foot main house, and then a 20-car garage, plus some other outbuildings and whatever. I'm very excited about that one. I just think like it's fun doing new projects. It's fun new challenges. It's fun meeting new people. And it's fun building new teams.
Yeah.
Let's just keep doing it. Yeah. But I love I also like, it's all fun doing all the sort of big glamorous, super prime stuff. But I also love doing developments back here, shops, offices,
do you residential hospitality as well?
Haven't done any, no. I've done an office, but never done.
Would you like to see it?
Yeah.
I'd like to do a hotel or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it'd be fantastic.
Tell me a bit about your new house that you built. What was that like being the client again? Were you the client and the contractor?
I was a client and contractor. Yeah. We just bought, it's in the suburb just north of Copenhagen. It's like a 300 square meter house. We'd already bought in March and we've gutted it and redone it.
What's it like doing it with your wife?
Yeah. Great comment. Super. She's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, me and my wife, I mean, I think it's a good sign of a marriage if you can get through a few projects together. But it does, what were her influences that she really wanted? Did she have any particular things that you hadn't thought of, or that actually had real?
I've worked with my wife before.
Have you?
When we started a Better Home company, she quit her job working for Mindshare and helped us get it off the ground. But she's great at a lot. And we also had an insurance business for a couple of years that we ended up selling in 2020, which did like home serve style repairs. And she got the FCA. But you don't realize until you work with your partner how different they are to you. You know, when you meet a partner, you have like, you know, you complement each other and all that stuff. But when you work together, I did not realize how different we were. Like for me, I'm like, everything's got to be done 5 minutes ago. And I'll do like 300 relatively small things in a day, whereas she's very much focused on doing one task and doing it very well. And you know, that thing. And when you get those two personalities together, it doesn't go great. But yeah.
My wife's one of the only family members that doesn't work with us. And she'd be a fantastic agent.
Yeah.
But it would be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's not, you know, I don't think that you can be partners in everything, but maybe not also business.
I think it would be, I don't know, my brother and his wife both work at Russell Simpson, and they make it work really well. I'm sure me and my wife would actually make it work really well. She's such a massive character that I know she would, if I have any semblance of leadership, sort of the boss, she would destroy that in 10 minutes.
But I think it's, you know, you do also need to like have a slightly different persona when you get to work. Like if I'm around my mates or around my family or whatever, I'm pretty silly.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, laughing with my kids at the poo video that you just showed me.
Yeah.
You know, and I find it whatever. But when I'm at work, you do change the persona to be more serious. And yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's not the easiest
to move between those. Do you know, it's actually really tough. That, I mean, one of my younger brothers, he said to me the other day that he felt it's very weird working. You know, you grow up together and then you come and work with your siblings, and they're the same people, but you just got such a different, I don't know, it's a different dynamic. And I don't know, for our business, we just, I suppose I've just never known it. I haven't really known it any different. You know, my dad works my entire childhood, he was working frantically, and then my entire adult life, I've worked next to him.
But you know, from an outsider, it says so much about you as you guys in the business that you can all work together.
We can actually do it.
You can do it. You know, people think, but if they can do that, then they can handle.
Yeah,
they're gonna handle a down valuation or whatever, you know, bank issue that might come along.
The first question is, what's it really like?
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose,
are you okay?
Are you okay? What's it really? Is it quite stressful? No, it is. It's amazing, and I think I'm sure you're right. You know, I suppose in a game, in a world where relationships and trust are so important. I mean, being an estate agent, trust is, and the same in your industry. Like, they're so key, and I suppose if you can work with your family and you can get through that, then I can probably deal with other stuff.
Absolutely, life's short.
If you were starting from scratch today, what would be your property business plan?
I would probably buy shops and uppers on high streets.
Okay.
High streets are changing massively. We all know that from COVID, you know, or just the general trends, you know, and high streets are now, they're all the sort of traditional. So the values are quite good on shops and uppers at the moment, especially. I wouldn't buy them in London, by the way. I'd buy them all around the home counties and all around the UK. High streets are becoming much more service orientated. So the shops that are surviving all provide a service, you know, face trim, hairdressers, you know, estate agents. That's true. You know, but it's very much focused on the aspect of living there. And then you get young people moving in who want to live there because normally high streets are close to transport. So they're great places to invest. You know, commercial deals are super. You know, you get a 20-year lease, 25-year lease. You know, you guys also do rentals. You know, you don't have a 2-year or 3-year is like the best you can hope for.
Right.
for 25 years, and then the terms of full repairs. That's it. The block that we have outside Newbury, which has got 5 shops and 3 flats. All we pay for is insurance, which is £1,000 a year. That's the only cost we have.
And you have the benefit of comparing that to a residential let.
Yeah.
And you can see how different that is. So I'm really excited to ask you about the next thing. And it seems to me like it sounds like you've got a very, very busy life when you've taken on another really big project. But a lot of the things that you've learned over the last 25 years have then come into a challenge that you set yourself in January. And I'd love you to explain a bit more about it and a bit more about it.
So in January, over Christmas, actually, when we have 2 weeks off over Christmas, I love it.
The days of tired.
The days of tired, because it's the only time of the year that everything stops.
Yeah.
You don't get WhatsApps, you don't get whatever. Everybody stops, and that gives me way too much time to think.
If you're wanting to do things 5 minutes ago,
exactly. No, because we've always, as developers, we've always traded property. We've always bought and sold and bought and sold. And a load of people do reach out to me and ask about, why I build a portfolio and how can I get my first investment, or how do I do this, how do that. So I decided that I would build up 100-unit portfolio. I set myself like a 5-year window, and because if you build up 100 units, that's your full-time job now.
Yeah.
You should have enough cash passing by you as you do any of the work. So I thought, well, I'll build up this 5-year thing. So then from a standing start in January, I was like, shit. I've been saying this on social media now. So right now, this month, we will have 11 units.
Great.
Into the 100-unit challenge so far. And in the pipeline, there's another 50.
Brilliant.
We have...
So just for anyone that hasn't seen that video, I've watched it many times, but you've set yourself a challenge from a standing start of building a 100-unit portfolio within a year. You said 5 years.
No, 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
And I also said that I would do it without any of my own money.
Okay.
So the whole point is that, you find a project, you find something potential, you appraise it, you figure it out, what you're going to do with it. Then you got to go raise the money. So essentially what I've been doing is I've been offering investors 50% equity for it. So I say, look, come and join me. You come up with the cash to buy it. And of course we'll get a mortgage or whatever for the rest of it. And then we'll own it together. And then some will have like a 2-year or 3-year exit where I have to refinance and pay them back. Or some of them are just loans. So they got a 15% ticket, on it or whatever. But the whole point was to prove that you just need a laptop and a phone. You don't need to be sitting loads of cash to be a landlord. So we got 2 of them are like land deals where we've taken option agreements on land. We've found land at potential and we've signed up options with the owners to then. So one of them is to build 3 houses, one is to build 2, and there's a new one now for 6 flats.
And so explain to people that don't know what that means. What's
an option, for example, is like your home down in Oxfordshire. I could come to you and I could say, Bertie, I think that I could get permission for 10 houses on your land. The value is now $1 million, but if I get this planning permission, it's going to be worth $2 million. So let's make a deal. Let's make a deal on contract that I can buy your land for, let's say, $1.5 million. And you agree to, okay, and I had that permission for let's say 2 years. So essentially I have to come with all the money and all the cost to get the permissions. And if I get the permissions, I then have the right to buy your land for 1.5. So it's kind of win-win for the landowner because
they're getting 50%.
They're getting whatever 50% more, doesn't cost them a penny. And also, if I don't quite succeed, let's say I get 3 houses rather than 10, then it doesn't work for me. You will still have gained from that planning permission because the planning sits with the property owner. So that's quite a lot of people like doing it, but it's a lot of hand-holding. It's a slow burn, And I had thought to build the unit challenge just by doing those ones because they're quite low cost. It only cost a couple of grand in legal fees to do an option agreement.
Okay.
And then, we bought doing another one, which is a mixed-use block outside Newbury, by now a Boots and Deal.
Okay.
Do you know Deal?
I've been to Deal.
Deal's lovely. It's great. I've never heard of Deal before in my life. I thought we'd buying a Boots there, and it's a 3-story building, and then we're renegotiating the lease, and then we got the upper floors are coming back to us, so we can rent them out as offices.
Great.
And I'm doing like a YouTube video on all the different projects that we do. I'm pretty passionate about it now. So like, it was hard. I was really in the trenches. If you'd asked me about this in March, February, I would have said like, what have I done? You know, was I thinking? But now that we're getting through it now, and we got the first, so now, like I said, 11 is there, you know, so we're motoring.
Well, I love your YouTube videos. It's very inspiring, and it's very educational. It's great that you're sort of giving back, and people can be like, you know, I hope that people will hear this and get excited about potentially trying their own.
There's just so much. I'm passionate about it because there's so much opportunity in the UK in the property sector, because there's so many different angles. You know, it's not just, you know, the old flip game or the old buy to let game. Now there's, you know, and there's commercial to resi, there's shops and uppers, there's commercial property is fantastic at the moment. There's low stamp duty. You know,
Yeah.
we're in a high interest rate environment where hopefully rates will be going down, which means the yield calculation works in your favor. You know, there's option agreements, there's promotion agreements, there's whatever, and you know, and then it all marries together with design. You know, like if you're passionate about design and interior design, you know, if you can build something which nobody else is really doing. Everyone just does it so half-assed. You know, that if you could do it, you could do so much for it, and it's not
You
that
just haven't
hard.
got enough time
I just haven't got enough time.
to do it all.
Yeah,
And thank you so much.
pleasure, mate.
That was really fun.
Pleasure. I loved it.
Thank you.
You know, let's scrap it, eh?
No.